Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Raven Maureen and I am so excited for this vlog. I am making over my sewing room, and okay, let's just start with the facts. This sewing room has been like this for 4 years. Not in this like specific condition where everything's in disarray, but I've had the same setup of a sewing room for 4 years, basically since I moved into this house. And a lot of it was just kind of like, well, you know, we'll just make do with what I have, with what we got. And the budget was really small, and it just, you know, I just made do with a lot. I have a lot of banquet tables in here and everything, and it's time for me to grow up. It's time for me to get a space that works for me. And I have to add too that this space is really challenging because I have 2 closets in this space, and I have 2 windows in this space, and I really only have like 1 1/3 of a wall of space in this room. And that was always the challenge from the beginning. But I did some research, I did some Pinteresting, if that's a word. I did a couple of things to figure out how I can make this space work for me in the way that my sewing room has grown over time. This space, you know, was just dedicated to sewing up until about a year ago. Now granted, I don't make my pattern weights in here, but I pack orders in here. So there's supply stuff in this room. There's my clothing rack. There's my little content corner. There's a TV in here that doesn't really work either. There's a lot of things that can go, that can get shifted around. And so it's really just time for me to grow up and redo this space. So I'm taking you guys on this journey. This is a before and after, and do not judge me. I am giving you the raw deal here. Like, I didn't even really clean up. I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna show them what it is right now. And when we do the makeover, when it's done, it's gonna look really pristine and very pretty. So come along with me. I'm going to show you guys what my room looks like right now, and then I'm going to show you guys some of the furniture I got. And then this is all like empty space behind there, so I plan to like get rid of this because now it's become this whole area here where it's just a catch-all for all of my patterns. Notice I have the bed risers and whatnot, and then I had storage underneath. All of this is gonna go up in bookshelves and whatnot and just get reorganized, but this was honestly just a banquet table, and I covered it up with contact paper because I was cutting and doing all sorts of things and there were scratches on it. I don't plan on treating my new cutting table the same way. But this was a very inexpensive way to cut things. It has served its purpose for such a long time. This really feels like the end of an era, but all things come to an end at some point. So goodbye, old table. I won't miss you. So this right here is the high top sewing table. It's a cutting table. And I got it in white, and I want it to be centered in my room. That way I can get better angles for videos for you guys, and it'll just make better use of the space, and I really just want this to be in a central location. All right, so Joe and I, we are gonna try and build as much as we can today, and we'll see where it takes us, but this is day 1 of my sewing room makeover. So this is not the first time that Joe and I have put furniture together. It's not our first rodeo. We usually have our parts all laid out, and then we get the instruction booklet to make sure that we have the parts that match the list. and then we start dividing and conquering. With this table, we have to put all the legs together first. So I'm adding all the nuts and bolts to the wheels of the legs and then adding the wheel to the adjustable leg. So this table is adjustable for height purposes, so it could sit at like a counter level, a pub level, or even down to like your, average seating table level. I did have a little bit of trouble with inserting one of the adjustable legs into the square bottom. One of the one of the actual openings was actually slightly dented, and so I just moved on to the other leg, and then finally Joe and I, we swapped we swapped parts, because I think he had a better way of actually inserting it into that piece. But honestly, putting the legs together was not that challenging beyond this point here. So now that all the legs are together, there's these door hinges that need to go onto the base of the table as well. And the holes for this look really, really small. And so we weren't even sure if the screws were going to go in because the matching screws were significantly bigger than these holes. Joe actually got them to go in, thankfully, but this was a unique situation because we were trying to figure out how the door hinges even play into the table. But here's a spoiler alert, you absolutely need the hinges because it actually helps to keep the legs together when the table is fully open. Now we're moving on to the tabletop. So we have to add in 8 door hinges to this tabletop. And I underestimated just how big this tabletop is. It's about 60 inches wide, 36 inches in length as well across the short side. Now that the tabletop is finished, we actually have to screw the legs into the tabletop. Not gonna lie, this table is pretty heavy, so it is a two-man job to get it upright onto its feet. And we're gonna test out the height to make sure that this is going to work for me. Once the table was sitting upright, I recognized immediately that this was too tall, but we unfolded it anyway just to do our due diligence, but we're gonna have to adjust these legs. Thankfully, my old cutting table was still sitting up, so I managed to measure from the bottom of the bed riser to the top of the table, and that was about 34 inches. And so when we adjusted the legs, I measured these legs from the wheel to the top of the table after adjusting it to make sure that it came to about 34 inches. So this eventually worked out for us. Okay, and now we put it back up on its feet. And I already know that this area rug has to come up because this is just in the way at this point. And so I'm retesting it out. I think it's going to work this time. This height is perfect, you guys. I love it. Yay! Right now, my table is taking up a little bit more space than I like, but there's also my clothing rack, my dress form, and my non-working television that are in the way. But I really just wanted to test out the tabletop to see what it would be like to like cut a pattern and whatnot. And this is worth the hype, you guys. I am loving this table. I can't wait to get the rest of my room fixed up just how I want. So thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more episodes over the next few weeks.